What if I told you that habits aren't really something you do? They're something that ends up doing you. Stick around, because today's episode might change how you think about your own routines.
So here is a slightly uncomfortable truth to just, kick things off today.
Yeah.
If you decide today that you want to radically change your life, like maybe you want to start working out every morning or finally learn that new language.
Right.
Or even build a business from the ground up, your own brain is actually biologically hardwired to stop you. I mean, it is going to fight you every single step of the way.
Yeah, it really is. And I know it sounds incredibly pessimistic when you put it exactly like that, but well, from a purely evolutionary standpoint, it's entirely accurate.
Wow, really?
Yeah. The human brain is basically an energy conservation machine. So any deviation from your normal routine requires this massive surge of cognitive energy.
Right.
And your biology just perceives that energy drain as a literal threat to your survival.
That is wild. Well, welcome to the deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, you're obviously the kind of person who actively wants to grow. You were looking for an edge.
Exactly.
But you're also probably totally exhausted by that endless cycle of getting intensely motivated on a Sunday night.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. You download all the productivity apps, you buy the expensive running shoes, and then you just completely abandon the plan by Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday at the latest,
Yeah, exactly. So our mission today is to cut through all of that noise. We want to give you the exact practical steps required to start a new habit and actually make it permanently stick.
Which is huge.
It is. We're completely bypassing this whole concept of just relying on motivation today. Instead, we're breaking down the actual biological mechanics of human behavior so you can build a fail-safe system for change.
And we really do have a phenomenal stack of research to construct this system today. We are pulling insights from the foundational behavioral design stuff in Atomic Habits, plus psychological frameworks used in cognitive behavioral therapy.
Which is super interesting.
It is. And we're also looking at peer-reviewed neuroscience on how the brain achieves automaticity and even environmental design strategies that top financial institutions use to build wealth.
Yeah. The recurring theme across all of this research is that changing your life is actually rarely about willpower at all.
Almost never.
Right. But before we get into the, biological hacks and the checklists, we really have to address this massive conceptual error most of us make right at the starting line.
The focus issue.
Yes. We fixate entirely on the finish line. We obsess over the goal while completely ignoring the process.
Which is just a recipe for temporary change at best. I mean, the behavioral design framework we are looking at establishes a really profound rule for this.
And what's that?
It says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
I love that quote.
It's so good, right? Because goals are merely the results you want to achieve. Systems are the processes that actually get you there.
Right.
Think about it like this. Every Olympian and every last place finisher had the exact same goal. The goal didn't differentiate them at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the system did.
Exactly. The system did. If you are having trouble changing your habits, your desire isn't the broken mechanism. Your system is.
Okay, let's ground this in a real scenario so we can really see it.
Yeah.
Say someone wants to lose 20 pounds for a summer wedding.
Classic example.
Right. That is a goal. It has a deadline, it has a metric, and it is entirely externally motivated.
Yeah.
They might actually white-knuckle their way to that goal, but what happens the day after the wedding?
The system just vanishes.
Exactly. System vanishes, the old habits return, and the weight comes right back. So the alternative to this is what the research calls identity-based habits.
Yes, and that is the critical pivot. True, sustainable behavior change actually requires believing new things about yourself.
So shifting the internal narrative.
Precisely. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, the shift is, I am the type of person who takes care of my body.
Oh, I see.
Instead of saying, I want to read a book this month, it's just, I am a reader. The psychological weight of those two approaches is vastly different.
It really is.
Because every action you take is simply a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
Okay, I understand the theory, but I feel like this is where I run into a wall. And I suspect you listening might feel the exact same way.
Oh, for sure. The pushback on this is real.
Right. There is this massive sense of cognitive dissonance here. If I currently haven't jogged in 3 years and my diet consists primarily of fast food, telling myself I am an athlete feels completely ridiculous.
Yeah, you feel like a fraud.
Exactly. My brain knows I'm lying. So how do we bridge that gap between adopting this new identity and the biological reality that our brain knows we haven't earned that identity yet?
Well, you bridge that gap with evidence. Identity isn't something you can just manifest in the mirror through, like, positive affirmation.
Thank goodness, because that never works for me.
Right. Your brain requires proof. If you observe the daily routines of highly successful people, there is a fundamental truth they all operate on.
Which is what?
Motivation is a temporary feeling, but discipline is a daily decision. Highly effective people take action regardless of how they feel.
So they don't wait for the mood to strike.
Never. They don't wait for the feeling of being an athlete to arrive. They let the action create the identity over time.
So the action actually precedes the belief.
Mm.
You cast enough small votes, and eventually the internal polling shifts.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
But to consistently take that action when the motivation is gone, I mean, we really have to manipulate our own neurobiology.
We do. We absolutely have to.
We have to bypass the part of the brain that wants to stay comfortable. Let's dig into the neuroscience here, because the research points heavily to a specific region of the brain called the basal ganglia.
Yes, the basal ganglia. This is where the actual mechanics of behavior live.
Okay, break that down for us.
So when you learn something completely new, you rely on your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for conscious decision-making, complex planning, and focus.
The thinking part.
Right. But the prefrontal cortex is a massive energy hog. I mean, it gets fatigued very quickly. So as you repeat an action over and over, the brain realizes it can save energy by shifting control of that behavior away from the prefrontal cortex and handing it right over to the basal ganglia.
Okay, let me see if I can picture this correctly. When you move into a brand new house, for the first week, getting a glass of water in the middle of the night is a high cognitive task.
Oh, absolutely.
You are using your prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
You're consciously thinking like, okay, watch out for the coffee table. Feel for the light switch. Wait, where are the cups?
Yeah, it takes a lot of focus.
It takes focus. But then 6 months later, you can navigate that same dark house, grab a cup, fill it with water, and get back to bed while being almost entirely asleep.
That is the exact mechanism. The basal ganglia has totally taken over.
Wow.
It creates what neuroscientists call automaticity. It basically turns a conscious, high-friction effort into a seamless background program.
That's incredible.
It really is. The basal ganglia is an ancient, deeply primitive part of the brain that just recognizes patterns and executes them on autopilot. The beauty of this is that once a habit is formed, it requires almost zero willpower to execute. But the danger is that the basal ganglia doesn't distinguish between a good habit and a bad one.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, it just runs the script.
So the multi-million-dollar question is, how do we consciously engineer those scripts? If we know the basal ganglia is just waiting for instructions, how do we program it to do the things we actually want to do, like going to the gym or studying, instead of mindlessly scrolling on our phones?
We do it by hacking what's called the habit loop.
The habit loop, okay.
Yeah. Every single habit you have, good or bad, moves through 4 distinct stages: cue, craving, response, and reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward.
Exactly. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It's basically a piece of information that predicts a reward.
Okay.
Then the craving is the motivational force behind it. The response is the actual habit you perform. And the reward is the end goal that satisfies the craving.
You know, the technology industry has essentially weaponized this loop against us.
Oh, 100%. They mastered it.
Think about it. Your phone buzzing is the cue. The craving is the desire to know who messaged you or what the notification is. I mean, you get a little dopamine spike just anticipating it.
You really do.
The response is picking up the phone. And the reward is the temporary distraction or the social validation. And it all happens in milliseconds.
Which is exactly why we have to be just as intentional about reverse engineering this loop for our positive goals.
Right. We have to fight fire with fire.
Exactly. The behavioral framework we looked at lays out 4 laws of behavior change to do exactly this.
Let's hear them.
Law 1, make the cue obvious. Law 2, make the craving attractive. Law 3, make the response easy. And Law 4, make the reward satisfying.
Okay, so obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Yes. And if a behavior is missing any of these 4 things, it will not become a habit.
I really want to spend some time on Law 3, making the response easy. Because, you know, making a habit easy sounds wonderful in theory.
Sure does.
If I want to drink more water, making it easy means keeping a full water bottle on my desk. Simple. But what if the habit I want to build is inherently difficult?
Okay, like what?
Say I want to start running 5 miles a day. or I want to write a novel. You can't make running 5 miles easy. It requires physical exertion and pain.
That is a very common point of friction, but you are kind of conflating the end goal with the habit itself.
Really? How so?
You do not make the final execution easy. You make the starting line easy.
Starting line.
Right. The behavioral research refers to this as the start small principle, or the 2-minute rule. You basically have to break the big, intimidating task into a tiny, almost laughable starting step.
Okay, give me an example.
So if your goal is to run 5 miles, your new habit is not running 5 miles. Your habit is simply putting on your running shoes and tying the laces. That is the only thing you have to accomplish.
Honestly, it sounds almost too simplistic, like a mental trick that we would just see right through. I mean, if I know I still have to run 5 miles, just putting on the shoes doesn't solve the dread of the run.
I hear that a lot, but it's really not a trick. It's a way of overcoming the activation energy required by the prefrontal cortex.
Going back to the biology.
Exactly. Often the highest point of friction is just starting. Once you have your shoes on and you step out the front door, the momentum usually takes over.
That makes sense.
You are standardizing the behavior before you optimize it. Because, I mean, you cannot improve a habit that doesn't exist yet. The first goal is really just to master the art of showing up.
Showing up. Yeah, this connects directly to the mathematical concept of marginal gains, or the 1% rule, which is heavily featured in this behavioral framework.
Oh, I love the math on this.
It's crazy. If you improve by just 1% each day for 1 year, you don't end up 365% better. Because the gains compound daily, you actually end up roughly 37 times better by the end of a single year.
37 times! It's mind-blowing.
It really is. You don't need a massive, exhausting overhaul of your life. You just need to continuously reprogram the basal ganglia with these tiny microscopic improvements.
Exactly, because those tiny improvements bypass the brain's alarm system. If you try to change everything at once, your brain panics and shuts you down.
Right.
But if you just put your shoes on, the brain says, okay, this isn't a threat, we can do this.
Which brings us to a critical juncture for the listener. We understand the biology now. We know how the habit loop functions. But the next practical step is deciding what habit to actually focus on first.
Yeah, choosing the target.
Because the instinct is usually to overhaul everything on a Monday morning. The diet, the sleep schedule, the finances, the workout routine.
And doing that basically guarantees you will crash by Wednesday.
Right.
You are spreading your prefrontal cortex's limited energy way too thin. The secret is to ignore almost everything you want to change and instead pick one master key.
One master key.
Yeah. In psychology, these are called Keystone habits. This is a concept widely utilized in cognitive behavioral therapy and behavioral psychology.
I find this fascinating.
It is. Keystone habits are small foundational changes that unintentionally trigger a domino effect of positive changes across entirely unrelated areas of your life.
It's basically the idea that fixing one specific variable magically aligns 3 other variables without any extra effort on your part.
Exactly.
Let's break down some concrete examples so you can visualize this. Exercise is the most universally cited keystone habit. But why does lifting weights or going for a swim actually impact things outside the gym?
Because it completely restructures your daily operational rhythm. Obviously, exercise boosts your physical health and releases endorphins, which, regulates your emotional well-being and lowers stress.
Sure, the direct benefits.
Right. But consider the secondary effects. If you commit to working out every morning at 6 a.m., you are forced to manage your time better in the evening.
You naturally start going to bed earlier.
Exactly. Because you went to bed earlier, you sleep better. Because you slept better and exercised, your focus at work improves, meaning your productivity goes up. You didn't actively try to fix your sleep or your work focus. They improved as a biological byproduct of the Keystone habit.
It's literally a cascade of positive collateral damage.
That's a perfect phrase for it.
Meditation is another keystone habit that appears frequently in the literature. And I know meditation can sometimes sound a bit esoteric to people, but the neuroimaging research on it is incredibly grounded.
Oh, the data is rock solid.
It physically thickens the prefrontal cortex. It trains your brain to pause, creating a gap between a stimulus and your response.
And that gap is everything. I mean, when you look at frameworks for highly effective people, like the principle to seek first to understand, then to be understood, that requires immense emotional regulation.
It really does.
If you have a meditation practice, you are literally training your brain's inhibition response.
Right.
When your partner or your boss says something frustrating, instead of immediately reacting defensively, your brain has the learned capacity to pause, observe the emotion, and respond thoughtfully.
So your interpersonal relationships improve drastically, all because you sat still for 10 minutes a morning.
Exactly.
Another great framework analogy for this is the concept of sharpening the saw. If you are desperately trying to cut down a tree with a dull saw, you're going to be exhausted, frustrated, and you probably won't even fell the tree.
But the actual work is just too hard.
Exactly. But if you step away and spend your time sharpening the saw, which represents your keystone habit, like prioritizing sleep or journaling or daily movement, the actual work of cutting down the tree naturally becomes easier.
Yeah.
You don't have to push as hard because the tool is already primed.
That perfectly illustrates the efficiency of a keystone habit. So, for the listener mapping this out today, you've decided on the identity you want to cast votes for, you understand how the habit loop works, and you've selected your single keystone habit.
Right.
Now, we have to talk about execution. You need a bulletproof implementation strategy because we know motivation is fickle.
Super fickle.
What happens on the day it's raining, you slept terribly, and your willpower is just at absolute zero?
Yeah, this is where we need to introduce cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. We usually think of CBT in the context of treating anxiety or depression. But at its core, it is simply a framework for understanding the relationship between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors.
Exactly.
And the primary tool we pulled from the CBT resources for habit development is the ABC model.
Yes, the ABC model. It is an incredibly practical diagnostic tool when your habits break down. So A stands for the activating event. This is the cue or the trigger in your environment.
Okay, A is activating event.
Right. B stands for belief. This is the internal narrative or thought process you have about that event. And C stands for the consequence, which is your resulting emotion and behavior.
Let's run a stress test on this so we can see it in action.
Yeah.
Let's say my keystone habit is that I want to spend 45 minutes every evening studying for professional certification instead of watching television.
Okay, good goal.
The activating event, the A, is closing my laptop at the end of the workday at 5:30 p.m. The consequence, the C that I want, is to open my textbook. But the breakdown always happens in the middle, at B, the belief.
Yeah, the belief is the silent killer of habit formation. When 5:30 p.m. hits, your brain starts rapidly generating beliefs to protect its energy reserves.
Fighting back.
Exactly. It tells you, oh, I've had an incredibly stressful day. I worked hard. I deserve to decompress. If I study now, I won't retain anything anyway.
Wow, those beliefs feel completely rational in the moment.
They do. And so the consequence is that you turn on the TV and then you spend the rest of the night feeling this low-level hum of guilt.
Yep. So how does CBT actually intervene there? I mean, I can't just forcefully tell myself I'm not tired if I genuinely am.
No, you don't deny the reality. You challenge the utility of the belief. CDT teaches you to reframe the narrative.
Okay, how?
When the thought arises, I've had a hard day, I deserve to rest. You actually counter it with, I did have a hard day, but watching TV won't actually recharge me. It will just numb me.
Oh, that's powerful.
Right. You say, like, studying for 20 minutes is an investment in my future self, which is the ultimate form of self-care. You actively dispute the cognitive distortion that resting always equals inaction.
And to make that cognitive reframe even easier, you really need to pair it with environmental design. Both the psychological research and our financial sources lean heavily into this.
They really do.
The idea is that willpower is for amateurs. Professionals restructure their environment so that the good habit is the path of least resistance, and the bad habit is incredibly frustrating to execute.
If you look at how financial institutions advise building wealth, it is the purest form of environmental design.
Really? How so?
They don't tell you to sit down every Friday, look at your bank account, and bravely decide to transfer money into saving.
Right, because nobody would do it.
Exactly. They tell you to automate it. You set up a system where a percentage of your paycheck goes directly into an investment account before you even see it.
Oh, wow.
You remove the prefrontal cortex from the equation entirely. Wealth building happens without conscious thought, just because the environment is doing the heavy lifting.
That is so smart. And we can apply that exact financial automation to our physical habits, right?
Absolutely.
If my goal is to study instead of watch TV, I shouldn't just rely on arguing with my beliefs. I should take the batteries out of the TV remote and put them in a drawer in the kitchen.
Yes. Introduce friction.
I should leave my textbook open on the center of my desk. I am literally putting friction between myself and the bad habit and greasing the slide toward the good habit. Make doing the right thing the absolute easiest option available.
But even with a perfectly designed environment and all the cognitive reframing, you really have to prepare for failure. because you will inevitably mess up.
Yeah, that's just being human.
When you study the principles of highly successful people, one of their core habits is actually embracing failure. The average person misses one day of their new diet or workout routine and experiences what psychologists call the what the hell effect.
A what the hell effect.
Yeah, meaning, well, I ruined the streak, what the hell, I might as well eat whatever I want. And then they abandon the system entirely.
It's perfectionism masquerading as discipline. We think that one missed day fundamentally breaks the compounding math we talked about earlier. But a tree doesn't die because it was cloudy for one afternoon. It keeps growing the next day.
Exactly. One missed day does not destroy progress. Quitting destroys progress.
Right.
The difference between success and failure isn't perfection, it's the speed of recovery. If you miss your Keystone habit, you don't spiral into shame. You use the CBT model objectively.
You look at it like a scientist.
Exactly. You ask yourself, what was the activating event that threw me off? What belief derailed me? How can I adjust my environment so it doesn't happen tomorrow?
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. I want to distill this down into a highly actionable sequence for the listener.
Let's do it.
If you are listening to this right now, maybe you're walking the dog or commuting, and you want to start executing on this tomorrow morning, what is the absolute first physical step to take?
When you look at the morning routines of highly effective individuals, it always starts with taking ownership of the very first moments of the day.
Okay.
Before the world gets to dictate your attention, before you look at a single notification, email, or headline, you wake up with purpose. You pause. Maybe you look at the journal tracking your Keystone habit. You send a definitive biological signal to your brain that you are not in a reactive state. You are setting the terms of engagement for the day.
You own the morning before the smartphone owns you. I love that. Let's recap the entire toolkit we've built today for practical steps to start a new habit.
Yeah, let's run through it.
Step 1. Stop obsessing over the goal and decide on the identity you want to cast votes for. Remember, you fall to the level of your systems. Step 2. Don't change everything at once. Pick one Keystone habit your master key, like exercise, meditation, or reading, that will naturally trigger positive ripple effects.
Step 3. Shrink that habit down to a ridiculously small starting step to bypass the brain's resistance. Just put the shoes on. Step 4. Utilize the habit loop. Make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying.
Awesome. Step 5. When you face internal resistance, use the CBT ABC model to intercept and challenge those limiting beliefs. And finally, step 6. Automate your environment so your willpower doesn't have to carry the entire burden.
It is a complete scientifically backed blueprint for bypassing temporary motivation.
It really is. But as we wrap up this deep dive today, there's one final, slightly provocative concept I want to leave you with.
Okay, let's hear it.
We almost always think of habits as things we do. It's very active phrasing. But considering everything we just discussed about the basal ganglia, how it literally takes over our routines and runs them in the background without our conscious permission.
Right.
What if our habits are actually doing us?
Oh, that completely flips the paradigm.
It really does.
It forces you to ask, how much of your day is actually you making an active conscious choice in the present moment? And how much of your day is just the ghost of your past decisions running the show on autopilot?
Exactly. When you look around your life right now, your desk, your kitchen counter, your digital environment, your schedule, what is your environment currently voting for? What identity are your surroundings silently reinforcing?
That is such a good question to ask yourself.
Because that messy landscape of human behavior we talked about at the beginning, it is navigable. The system to rewrite your own biological scripts is entirely within your grasp. Take a hard look at your environment today and ask yourself what it is voting for, and then take that first 1% step. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.